जय कृष्ण मुरारी। मुरलीधर पीतांबरधारी, मुरलीधर पीतांबरधारी, माई मीरा हृदय विहारी, माई मीरा हृदय विहारी, माई मीरा हृदय विहारी, माई मीरा हृदय विहारी। कृष्ण मुरारी, जय कृष्ण मुरारी, कृष्ण मुरारी, जय कृष्ण मुरारी, कृष्ण मुरारी, जय कृष्ण मुरारी, कृष्ण मुरारी, जय कृष्ण मुरारी। माधव मुरहर
सहना भवतु सहनौ पुनस्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Together we'll chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verses 1 to 10.
अथ नमोऽध्यायः। श्रीभगवानुवाच भूय एव महाबाहो शृणु मे परमं वचः यत्तेऽहं प्रीयमाणाय वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया। न मे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः। अहमादिर्हि देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः। यो मामजमनादिं च वेत्ति लोकमहेश्वरम्। असम्मूढः समर्थ्येषु सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते। बुद्धिर्ज्ञानमसम्मोहः क्षमा सत्यं दमः शमः। सुखं दुःखं भवो भावः भयं चाभयमेव च। अहिंसा समता तुष्टिः तपोदानं यशो यशः भवन्ति भावा भूतानां मत्त एव पृथग्विधाः महर्षयः सप्त पूर्वे चत्वारो मनवस्तथा मद्भावा मानसा जाताः येषां लोक इमाः प्रजाः एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकम्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवः मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विताः मच्चित्ता मद्गतप्राणाः बोधयन्तः परस्परं कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते
We were doing the various characteristics that come out of Brahman. We actually spent a lot of time dealing with them. It is out of context, really, because his point here is not these particular characteristics. The main point is everything comes from Brahman. So really, we are doing a bit of injustice by spending so much time on it. Basically, all he's saying is everything comes from me. That's his only point. However, since he has mentioned some excellent qualities for us as sadhaks, one cannot but be tempted to go into them a little bit. So we've done buddhi, jnana, asammoha, kshama, the beautiful quality of forgiveness, the beautiful quality of forgiveness. Mark Twain describes it as the fragrance the lily gives when the foot crushes it. Even if someone does you harm, all you can give is the beautiful fragrance. And that's all you can give because that's all you have. Remember, nobody can take something from you that you don't have. No one can take anger from you or hatred from you or any such thing unless you have it. So how beautifully he has described what is forgiveness. When someone gets your purity, regardless of how or what that person is or does, or because that's all you have to give. You have nothing else. And this is something for us to aspire because actually we can't do this. It takes very little for us to dislike people. It takes very little for us to get angry with people. It takes very little for us to manifest or feel some kind of negativity. So that's why forgiveness is supposed to be one of the greatest spiritual qualities. Now, how do you have this quality? How is it even possible to have it? This kind of inability to think ill of another person can only come because your desires are so low that you can see things clearly. When you have desires playing, strong desires playing, it is virtually impossible to see things for what they are. Just can't do it. If my husband is a very quiet person, never speaks, I can't see this. I can go on grumbling about it. I can say, he's so quiet, he never speaks, he's so quiet, he never speaks. I go on grumbling about it, but I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't see it. And the reason I don't see that this is the person I have married is because
attachment. I have desire that he talks.
I have desire that, correct?
Is he speaks.
That he speaks to me. It is impossible. Now you go and tell that person that your husband doesn't speak, and she will go into this whole rapture about should he not speak, he got married, I'm asking for too much, go into all that. What can you say? She's right. Should speak. But the fact is, he's not that person. He's just not. Now what are you going to say? Who are you going to stop? Who are you going to condemn? And who are you going to? There's this famous Zen story. Two men were fighting and they went to a Zen master. And then the Zen master, one man said, you know what this man said to me? Tell me, was he correct? Isn't he completely wrong? And the Zen master turned to him and said, yes, you're right. And the other one said, oh, master, you know what he did, and he did, isn't he completely wrong? Should he have done such a thing? So the Zen master said, yes, you're right. And they both went away. And then the Zen master's wife was behind him during all this. He said, they both are saying two opposite things. How can they both be right? What are you saying? What advice have you given? And so the Zen master turned around to her and said, yes, you're right. Everybody is right. You cannot see anybody wrong. Yeah, from where this is being said, yes, it's right. When the baby it shows you the doll and says, this is the most beautiful doll in the world, and don't you love this doll so much, and she's my best friend. Yes, you're right. That same child grows up and never remembers about that doll. Yes, she's also right. Answer, how can you say this also, and how can you say that also? Yes, that's also right. Everything is right. So, as long as our own desires are not forming a sort of cataract on our eyes, who are you condemning and who are you criticizing, and for what? Will you condemn the rose for its thorns? Will you condemn the tiger for the carnivorous teeth and claws? But that is the tiger. That is the beauty of that tiger. How can you condemn it for what it is? But you can't. If that tiger is attacking you, can you praise those claws? Can you praise those teeth? Can you see the beauty of that tiger? If you can, you're a realized soul. Means you have no desire. You can see the beauty of that thing for what it is. So, what is forgiveness? It is just the recognition of what is. In terms of beings, it is a recognition of their vasana. Once you recognize those are his vasanas, who are you going to say? What are you going to say? And why are you going to say it? Shama. That's the beautiful quality of forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive. When you realize there's nothing to forgive, there is something to appreciate. Then that's that quality. What are you forgiving? You're forgiving the sun for rising. You're forgiving the wind for blowing. What are you forgiving? What else are these things going to do? Shama. You can only do this to the extent
your desires are
less.
your desires have reduced. Because how will you accept something to be such when you want it to be something else? How can you? That's the beautiful example which Shankaracharya always quotes, He constantly quotes it. And then you feel, Arey Baba, does he know any other example or not? Constantly talks about the fear that is generated from the snake. Mahabhayam. Rajju Sarpa Iva. The Rajju, the rope is seen as a snake and it creates a Mahabhayam, it creates fear. Now, when will that great fear go? When you see that it's a rope. But as long as you see that as a snake, how can you not be frightened? And that's the role of knowledge, to make you see it as a rope. Didn't hear the last part. When your desires are. Kanika, when your desires have reduced, only then can you see things from what they are. The others can't see it.
Right.
So as long as you see the snake, you have no option but to fear it. You have no option. Your heart will beat. You go through horripilations. Terrified. Can you stop this person who's terrified and say, don't be terrified? You say, you must be mad. If you're not terrified, you're a lunatic. And he's right. How can you not be terrified? There's a big snake over there. So what is forgiveness? Seeing the rope as a rope. And what are you forgiving? Who are you forgiving? What forgiveness are you talking about? And what reaction is it? Quite simple, right? At least to comprehend the idea. Satyam.
Janki-ji, Sanjay, I had a question.
Go ahead.
Forgiveness, we need to be careful about forgiveness that it does not have the element of ego in it also. Right? Sometimes forgiveness is seen as the ego, a part of it, as in the superior person forgiving the other person, right?
All these problems that occur with all the virtues are because we are practicing virtues, not living them. If you have fewer desires, your ego is proportionately less. So the question of becoming egoistical never arises.
Right.
When you're doing it the right way, everything is right. But when you're doing it the wrong way, something or the other goes wrong,
Right.
Either you become egoistical or you become passive, or you can do many wrong things with it.
Right.
You can start saying, oh, I forgive you, Bel mujhe maar, main hi ek mili hu. You can be stupid, right, with your forgiveness. You can go pet a tiger, saying, I appreciate the beauty of this tiger, and pet the tiger. Means you need to see a psychiatrist. So you can do many stupid things with it. That's why it is understanding which is the root of everything. Instead of understanding, what we tend to do is, you say, "Kaam ki baat batao, kya karu?" But that's not philosophy. Kam ki baat, there is no kam ki baat here. There is only understanding. And which is why nobody is interested in philosophy. They say, tell us what to do, tell us what to do. But there's nothing to do, Papa. Just understand. Understand that snake is a rope. That's all you have to do. There's nothing else to be done here. No, but tell us something to be done. Okay, then get up in the morning and study. At least given something to do. I mean, you have to get up and study because when are you going to understand this? But the thing is, the crux of the matter is, have you understood it? If you understand it, you do it right. If you don't understand it, you create all the confusion of the world. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
Nanda. Hari Om Nanda. Welcome back.
Hari Om Janki, thank you. And what if the tiger is attacking? Then what does one do? Yes, I've seen the beauty, everything. But if a tiger is attacking, still I just see the beauty?
If the tiger is attacking, then how do you even know that's a tiger? How did you get so close to a tiger that he's attacking you? That means you not recognize he's a tiger. If you knew he's a tiger, what is the first thing you will do?
Run away.
Keep away, Baba. I don't want to deal with tigers. The only place I want to deal with tigers is on Discovery Channel. That's the only place to deal with them. There's no other place to deal with them. No, you appreciate it on Discovery. You don't go to the zoo and start petting him and appreciating him. Then you and the tiger will become one. You will become part of the tiger. You will be his food. So don't go anywhere near him. So if you say, what can I do if he's attacking me? Understand he's a tiger. How did I get within attack distance of a tiger? Have I lost my head? What am I doing? So understanding it is dealing with it correctly. If you don't deal with it correctly, that means not understood it. It's the strong desires are preventing me from seeing it for what it is.
Correct. Right. Thank you.
Satyam, truth. Truth is the quality of pursuing the truth, pursuing the self, pursuing the reality of life. Truth is not just the simple quality of telling people the truth. Very easy for me to look at everybody and start telling them truth about themselves. Shivans, you should study more. I assume you're a student. A student, no? You should study more. Usha, you should exercise more. So easy. Everybody I can tell the truth to everybody. I can be telling some truth or the other. No, I don't mean that, Usha. I can see that you are fit. But it is so easy for us to go around telling the truth to the whole world. It's none of our business. Truth means, am I focused on finding that ultimate truth in life? That is a life of Satya. That is a life of conscious living. The great Shankara says, 1,000,000 acts. What did he say? No act, no bathing, no snanena, not by the bathing in the rivers, not by the ritualistic actions, not by pranayamam koti bihi. Koti pranayam also, you're not going to get it. It doesn't work like that. Oh, let us sit in meditation. It doesn't work like that. Let's do pranayam. It doesn't work like that. If you want the truth, you have no option but to live life with a certain degree of consciousness. By consciousness, it means your intellect must think carefully and then do things. And it must think carefully as to what am I trying to achieve when I'm doing this. If you don't live like that, it becomes mechanical activity, what Shankaracharya calls rituals, karma. Karma means rituals. What are you doing rituals for? I don't mean only religious rituals. Getting up in the morning may become a ritual. What are you doing rituals for? So when my intellect is engaged, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I going to the Bhagavad Gita class on Sunday mornings? Do I know this? What's my purpose? What's my point? And whatever be my purpose or my point, is this class actually helping me achieve that? If so, I do it. Otherwise, I dump it. Otherwise, just a ritual. Now, that doesn't mean you stop coming to the class. Otherwise, I become unemployed. So please come, but please do it with a certain degree of understanding of what we do. The class is to make us alive human beings. Alive human beings that we can transact like humans, like people, not like a cow. You go to a cow, you give it one whack, also the cow will not even turn around and say, "Kya hua bhaiya, kyun mujhe mare ja rahe ho?" Because there's a certain amount of mechanical activity that an animal goes through. A human being is capable of a rich internal and external life, which happens only when you engage the intellect. And the intellect gets engaged in its fullest glory only when
Morning study.
yes, that is true.
Knowledge.
Okay.
The mind is calm.
Okay.
Fewer desires.
Okay. I mean, I won't say any of you all are wrong, but in
Conscious
context,
living.
You can
Knowledge.
see the reality.
Conscious
you
living.
are excuse me. You are focused on finding the truth. The only way to live a full human life. This is not the way to do this. Because if you don't do this, then how are you even a human? A cow, a tiger, a spider doesn't ask these questions. What is a full life? And all this is beyond that. Whatever the tiger lives is his full life. That's it. Whatever the mosquito lives is his full life. But a human being, to live a full human life, is to engage his intellect. It has to get into gear. And when the intellect is in gear, then the beauty of life starts unfolding. It becomes a game that you're playing. It's the Leela of the Lord. It's a fun thing. It's a sport. It's a game. It's a divine play. That's how the bhaktas talk of it. Engage, no? They're going through like that. Why are you studying? Because my mommy says I have to do my graduation. Okay, why should you do your graduation? Because we have to take up a job. No, how will we take up a job if we don't have a graduate degree? Bapji. Go be a mosquito instead. At least a mosquito doesn't talk like that. So when you engage your intellect, then the fun of life comes. So that's a life of Satya. Not going around telling people all the truth. Oh, you're a corrupt person. Look at your own corruption before you talk of anyone else's. Dhamma. Dhamma means a restraint over yourself. A restraint over your enjoyments. Why do you have a restraint over your enjoyments? What is wrong with enjoyments? Why can't we just enjoy things of this world?
That's the best option to enjoy it for a long time.
Very good. Because without restraint, two things happen. One is you lose your goal. That's the first thing that happens. And the second thing that happens is you lose the enjoyment. So what kind of nonsensical life is this? Neither you got your goal, nor you enjoyed. Kanika, is tama derived from tamas? What is tamas?
Tamas is, when it is.
I know
you
what
have
is
a
tamas.
very-
What is tama derived from tamas? What is Tama?
No,
Because
because-
what Dhamma? Is that what you're mistaking?
Oh, you said Dhamma.
Look, don't you have a text with you?
Yes, I have.
Okay, look at the word Satyam,
Yeah, okay.
Dhamma,
Tama,
Shamaha.
Satyam, Dhamma, Samaha. Okay, sorry. I heard Tama. My internet is not doing too well today. Sorry.
So what is Dhamma? Physical restraint. That you prevent yourself from enjoyment because you are an alive person. Alive person means what? You have something to achieve in life. You also enjoy those things, so you would like to continue enjoying them. Means you have applied your intellect. Basically, that's all it means. Otherwise, you go all out, go all out, go all out until you can't stand that thing anymore. I remember this man. He went to Lonavala. So all those who are in Mumbai,
Hariom ma'am, can I ask a question or you want to finish the point?
I would like to finish the point.
Okay, fine.
Ganesh, finish this and then you ask. He went to Lonavala many years ago. I don't know whether this is still true or not. At Lonavala phase, everybody would go and get those chickies from Lonavala. And another thing was that fudge. I think it was Cooper's fudge or something. That chocolate walnut something. And it was like the upgraded thing. So it was like the hippest thing ever. So this young boy, he went and he loved it, as we all did at that age. And he got so much of that fudge when you can afford it. See, we were not, our parents hardly gave us any money. So we couldn't afford so much. They gave us like very little pocket money. And so we could not afford. But there was one boy, he could afford a lot. And he bought a lot and he ate a lot. And then for years after that, he couldn't bear to see it again. That beautiful fudge, just like, yuck, I hate it because he ate it so much that it was like, he couldn't bear to eat it. Is that what you want to do with your life? Do that with every single thing. Not just objects, with beings. You're fed up with your wife and you're fed up with your husband. Too much, too much. Bored stiff with everybody, with your friends, with everybody around. And the only way to enjoy them now is to part for some time. So when do you enjoy your maid coming? When she has not come for 2 weeks and then she comes, then you're like Jaya Bahaduri or Jaya Bachchan when she sees Shah Rukh Khan in that movie. It is that movie. You remember that?
Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
That one. And then he lands and then she goes berserk with joy. Like after your maid hasn't come for 2 weeks. Exactly like that. Only way to part all the time. So Dhamma is a conscious regulation of your contact with things. Conscious regulation. Shama is the same thing you do at the mental level. It's not just about physical withdrawal, but also mind's withdrawal. Means your mental occupation is not just with what am I going to enjoy next, what use am I putting my life to. That is called Shama. Sukham, Dukkham, pleasure and pain. To be conscious of them both. Remember, all of this is all coming from consciousness, okay? Sukham, Dukkham, Bhava, Abhava. Bhava, to be. Abhava, to not be. So existence and non-existence. The existence of the self for those whose intellect has grown, and the non-existence of the self for those whose intellect has not grown. Or the other way around, the existence of the world for those who are involved in the world, and the non-existence of the world for those who are not involved. So any existence, non-existence. But existence, non-existence is all a matter of of
Mind.
what we are conscious of. Correct.
Can I now ask, ma'am?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Ma'am, overindulgence will result in boredom. Complete restraint is not going to help your desire. That will also cause agitation. But even moderation is not going to do anything to desire, right? You're just, what you say, okay, you will enjoy for a long time, but so what? Right? I think Sankaracharya also says that, right? Moderation is not going to help you remove desire. It's going to be only knowledge. But my thing is, if you have a goal, unless you go all out for it, and most of us go all out for it, right? Moderation, very few people, or I find it difficult. So you're going to be bored your whole life, no?
This is very good logic, Ganesh. First, you say, if I do it, I'll be bored. But I'm going to do it, and so I'm going to be bored.
So I'm saying there is only boredom.
No, not necessarily. Is Krishna bored?
And there's only one Krishna.
Yeah. And there's also only one Ganesha here. So what does that mean?
Got it.
Work at it. Unless we live a conscious life, we will face all the problems that everybody faces. But if you make some attempt to live a conscious life, to engage the intellect, to the extent you are able to do it, to that extent you are freed from all the repercussions.
Okay, got
It's not that tough. It's like riding a cycle. When you get on it for the first time, you feel it's impossible. You're never going to do it. And what nonsense. It's no easier. In fact, all it does is cause you more pain. That's how you think about the cycle. And then after some time, balancing on the cycle is just second nature. So it's not that much. Just take a little step. And you will yourself see. And you have often spoken to me yourself and told me how much things are better and all. So take little steps, small steps that we can do. And you will, before you know it, people will say, saying, oh my God, Ganesh can do it. We can't do it.
Got it.
Janki ji, in this context, you had mentioned sukham dukham. So I didn't quite get it. You know how.
Sukham dukham is this qualities. He's saying all that comes out of consciousness, right? Okay. So sukham and dukham, when you have a desire, then you fulfill it. Sukham. When you don't, when you have a desire and you don't fulfill it, dukham. Or you transact with your intellect, sukham. You don't transact with your intellect, dukkham. Various ways you can achieve the same end. But whatever it is, his point is, it's all coming from consciousness. Bhayam, abhayam. Fear and fearless. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. When you have clarity, you understand what is to be feared and what is not to be feared. Discipline is not to be feared. Indulgence is to be feared. Love is not to be feared. Attachment is to be feared. Knowledge is not to be feared. Ignorance is to be feared. But when intellect doesn't function, we do just the opposite. We're frightened of knowledge. We say, oh my God, itna kaun karega? Baapre, ye sab bhi sochna padega. All sorts of things we fear, which we ought not to fear. Ahimsa. Ahimsa is translated sadly in this country as doing no harm to anyone. This is a very, very sad misinterpretation. Ajay 23. Who is Ajay 23?
Hariom, ma'am. It's me.
Where?
Ajay. Yeah.
Oh, why did you become 23, Ajay? Okay, normal Ajay.
No idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you have an unfulfilled desire and yet not be agitated? Yes and no. It all depends upon the strength of your intellect. If you have an unfulfilled desire, the mind will be agitated. If you have a weak intellect, this weak intellect will be able to do nothing about it. To the extent that it is strong, it will bring down the agitations of the mind. But to come to zero agitation with reference to anything, it will have to be without desire. So you have 3 stages. Number 1, you have a desire which is uncontrolled, terribly agitated. Number 2, you have a desire which is controlled but not fulfilled, less agitated depending on strength of desire. And zero agitation with reference to that thing, no desire. Such as a child wants a toy and the child cannot get the toy. Screaming and weeping and sobbing and throwing tantrums. Okay, uncontrolled. The child wants a toy, but the father says, no, you can't have it. But the child is a controlled child. The child feels bad and they then move on to other things. But there is still a certain degree of sadness based on degree of control. And then finally, zero agitation when the child grows up, because now that toy is incapable of causing sorrow. Okay, Ajay?
Ji, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ahimsa, mental attitude of not causing harm. Listen carefully. Mental attitude of not causing harm. Not physical restraining from causing harm. A doctor practices ahimsa. My question to you is, does a surgeon practice ahimsa? Would you say a surgeon is a himsatmaka prani, a violent creature, or would you say he practices ahimsa?
He practices ahimsa.
He practices ahimsa.
You would agree that he's a good chap, he's practicing ahimsa. But my question to you is, how are you calling him a practicer of ahimsa when he's cutting you up?
That's his job.
His intention.
Intention
matters.
Yes, because what he's trying to do is save your life. So ahimsa cannot be related to physical harm. Look at what he did to you. He made you lose so much blood and he cut out some part of your body and threw it in the waste bin. Sounds terrible. Except it is all good stuff, because now you are a healthy, normal human being because of what he did. What about butcher? Okay, butcher would be himsa or ahimsa based on what he thinks he's doing. Normally, you say a butcher is himsatmakam because he is killing creatures. So that's the normal thing. Why do you call him that? Because he wants to make money from the fact that he is taking life. So we call that himsa. But in the scriptures, there's a long and elaborate story about a butcher who was a self-realized soul. The moral of that being that don't look at people and decide whether they are himsa or ahimsa. We have to understand what is going on in their minds, because ahimsa is the mental attitude of not wanting harm caused to anyone. Now, somebody in the army, can you call them himsatmaka? Obviously not, right? Though what they are doing is going and shooting people, killing them, whatever. So it is the attitude and not the action which is himsa. Naim, you wanted to say something?
Just that the fact that Krishna was urging Arjuna to get up, fight, and kill these people purely was ahimsa because his intention was not to avenge but rather to set justice. Is that?
Correct. When you say it like that, then it will become ahimsa. But if you say, no, Krishna wanted to take revenge on all these people, then, because now you've attributed an intention. The moment you attribute the intention, that intention can be decided whether it is himsa or ahimsa. Okay? So we need not go into what was his intention. We attribute the intention and then we say it was himsa or ahimsa. Because we never know what anybody else wanted to do. We assume that Krishna does it with that intent. Then what other?
May I ask, ma'am? So when a lion becomes a man-eater because of the human beings who encroach in his domain, then it is not ahimsa because he's protecting himself and his cubs and his family or his own domain. If he starts killing people, because I mean that's his job is actually to kill and then eat. That's how he survives. So we will say these predator animals are not committing any kind of hinsa. It is ahimsa actually, right?
All animals, we do not judge them at all in the category of himsa or ahimsa because
they don't have a very less conscious mind.
Yes,
they do not have intellect. Yeah.
There is no intent. You can't say, so you can't say that the rose is ahimsa, for instance, or anything. Any creature other than the human being, you don't categorize in this thing because it is mental intention. But then, of course, you will say there are carnivorous animals or herbivorous animals, and just for a moral lesson, we say, oh, these are good and bad and ahimsa, and but as a matter of fact, no animal can be categorized over here.
So just a counter, an adding question to that. So which means that animals do not accrue any kind of karmic debt or karmic, they don't have any accrued karmic debts. So that if they go to the next life, they don't carry those karmic debts.
Don't use poetry, Kanika. That's where we get confused in philosophy. In philosophy, let's talk philosophy. What is a karmic debt? When you perform an action with an intention, you strengthen that intention. Right? Meaning what? Yes. You create more vasanas in that thing, whatever it is you're doing. Like for instance, you're doing Vedanta now. If you do it with intent, then you will create more vasanas for Vedanta, which is what we're trying to do. And the consequence of creating more superior quality vasanas is that the lower vasanas will wane away, drop away. So with conscious intent, we create the vasana for Vedanta study. Okay? Now we are consciously doing that with the intent of creating karmic debt. Karmic debt is what? It's a vasana. Now what happens in the case of mechanical activity such that animal performs, he has no capacity for intent. So he has no capacity to increase his vasanas. But what he can do is exhaust those vasanas. Yes, it's called mensriya, but focus on the idea, Kanika. When you perform an action with an intent, you strengthen the vasana. So you perform all the actions that you want to strengthen vasanas for with intent. In the case of the animal, he has no capacity of intent. So he can only exhaust his vasanas. You studied that, right, in the Vedanta Foundation course, where the animals have no capacity to increase vasanas. Only human beings can increase and decrease vasanas. Animals can only decrease vasanas because they have no capacity of intent. So when you say karmic debt and all, it just throws the whole thing off. use the word vasanas because then it becomes very simple, at least in our context. With intention, increase of that particular vasana. With no intent, no increase of that particular vasana. For example, a person who's a soldier, he kills the enemy, he actually pulls the trigger and kills the enemy. He creates vasanas of patriotism, not of killing. Because his intent was not the killing of the enemy, his intent was protection of the nation. So when it comes to himsa and ahimsa, we're talking about what is that intent. So a soldier, though killing, kills not, as it were. A surgeon, though killing, suppose his patient dies on the table, he kills not. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna. Though killing, kills not. Clear?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, very clear.
Ahimsa. The mental, please write that properly, the mental attitude of not causing harm. Not causing harm. It's nothing about your physical action, it's the mental attitude. Samata tushti. Samata, contentment. Contentment comes in life out of one very, very simple thing, and it is called
Intellect.
Very good, Bharat. If your intellect works, you will be a content person. If your intellect does not work, you will be a discontent person, regardless of everything else.
Samata also is some bhav in any situation to remain the same, which will be contentment in another form.
Equanimity. Right? Yeah, samata is equanimity. You will be equanimous, you will be content, you will be all of these things as long as your intellect works. Are you irritated? No, when you listen to Vedanta after some time, you get irritated. हर चीज में intellect है, इन लोगों को और कुछ समझ में ही नहीं आता. Intellect. Get fed up. So Shankaracharya says, Gartham kupyasi maya sahishnu. Unnecessarily are you getting angry with me? There is the fact will stay the fact. However frustrating it may sound, the fact will stay the fact. So how do you get equanimity? How do you get contentment? When the intellect functions, you have it. If the intellect doesn't function, you don't have it. Take it or leave it. That's it. Say, oh, I'm very unhappy, I'm very miserable. And then very heartlessly, Vedanta will tell you, what?
No
Your
intellect.
intellect is not working.
Yes. You please don't go around telling people that though. Otherwise you will say, oh, I will take the stance of Vedanta and tell everybody your intellect is not working. That means yours is not working. So don't go around telling anyone that, but understand the fact of life. But if your intellect works, you cannot cry. If you cry, your intellect will not work. अब मैं क्या बोलूं? Take it or leave it. Samata tushti. Tapaha. Tapaha is austerity. Austerity is
conservation of energy and not using in unproductive ways.
Very good. So in one word it is?
Discipline.
Okay. And discipline comes from?
Intellect.
Do I even need to explain any of these? All same answer for everything. Very good. You are right, Amarendra. Perfect definition of tapas, conservation of resources and redirection to a higher cause. And you're also right, Naeem. Because in one word, that is discipline. And Varsha, you're absolutely right. All of it is only intellect. When your intellect works, you are a disciplined person, you're a content person, you're a happy person. When your intellect doesn't work, yes, sab chala gaya.
Jankiji, is it that if you might be having a strong intellect, but you could face sorrow, you could cry? Like this example, Krishna crying in the Mahabharata.
Yeah, don't take it so literally. You can cry, no problem with crying. But you're not, what should I say? You're not thrown off balance.
Okay.
And cry. What is the problem with crying? I don't know why there is so much resistance to crying. The simplest, easiest, least expensive way, least bothersome way of expressing sorrow, to cry. No problem in that. But to be thrown off balance to the point that now you don't know whether you're coming or going. You're taking bad decisions. You're making a bad situation worse. That's the problem. So it's not about the crying. It's about the not losing control. Swamiji says, your tear should come up to the eyelid, but not fall out. You come. If it doesn't come up at all, then what are you, a stone or what? If it falls out, what are you, animal or what? Come right up to the eyelid and stay there. I mean, these are just nice ways of putting it. Don't have to like say, oh no, the tear came out of my eye. Now I'm out of control. That's not what it means. What it means is just don't make a bad situation worse. Okay? Dana. The capacity to give. All to do with how are you living your life. If you're living your life at the very edge of acceptable spending, you will never have money to give in dana. For instance, I'm just giving an example, okay? Vijay Mallya, do you think he has money to give in dana? He's a poor man indeed. You go to him and you say, we are going to build a university. We need 2 crores. Will you please give it to us? He will have a heart failure if he hears such thing from. But sometimes people who genuinely are not in terms of the actual number so high are big givers. So giving has got nothing to do with what you have. It has to do with
intention.
Okay, and that comes from
Intellect.
okay, that's also true, and that comes from
mental attitude.
Yes, okay. Where is it coming from? How is a person whose resources are relatively low capable of giving so much?
Charitable disposition.
Less desires.
Less desires.
Fulfillment.
Yeah, less desires. Fulfillment comes from less desires, no? Less desires. When you have fewer desires of your own, when you have a lot of desires of your own, and your income is like 5 lakhs a month, you would find it difficult to make ends meet because you have to do that. You have to fill that. How will you do it? You can't fulfill your own desires with your money. What are you going to fulfill somebody else's desire? Shilpa, how will you see other people's needs as being equal to your own? You won't be able to do that. Only when you are satisfied can you give. This is a law. Only when you have enough can you give. But you feel like a lack. How will you give anything? You can't. So that's duality.
No, Janki, I was saying if you see others as extensions of yourself or other
Yeah, but
creatures
how
as
would you do that?
okay.
You can't do that because your own needs will be insurmountable as far as you're concerned. So
Okay.
you can't do it if your desires are high. You can see other people as your equals only to the extent your desires are down. But then, automatically each one believes I am the most important. And that you may say it or not, but the focus of attention is always on my desire. So when that's very strong, other people can't exist. We'll understand it if you strengthen that desire a lot, right? In the case of a murderer, for instance, he sees that somebody has something which he wants. His desire is so strong, the other person's existence and non-existence means nothing to him. Because all he can see is his desire. So you increase the desire and then you will see what happens. So the opposite happens when you reduce the desire. Suddenly you are not so important in your own life. Everybody is seeming quite your consciousness is of a wider thing. Because you can. But if that desire is so powerful, forget consciousness of anybody or anything. So Dhanam is directly proportional to how rich you feel. And how rich you feel is based on how many desires you have. You can have all the wealth of the world and feel very poor. You can have no wealth and feel very rich. A matter of how many desires. So any noble soul is a giver. Noble soul means any purified soul, what should I call him? I don't know what to call him. Desires are few, so he can consider something more than himself. So, charity, dhanam. And dhanam is monetary dhanam, emotional dhanam, physical dhanam, emotional dhanam, intellectual dhanam. The highest dhanam is the giving of the knowledge of self. Highest. But again, you can do that only if you have it. What are you going to give? So that is it.
Highest dhanam is what?
Giving the knowledge of the self.
Janki ji, may I please announce about the t-shirts because some members